If you've been waiting your whole life for the ultimate asteroid mining simulator, then you're in luck. Delta V Rings of Saturn is here, and it's a game that understands the importance of science in science fiction. The physics-based mining sim drops you in a world where every action has a reaction. Precision spaceflight means a mistimed thruster burst could lead to major ship damage, or your hold barfing up all your precious minerals. Will you unravel the mystery of the rings, or just spend your time getting rich? Because while money can't buy you everything, it can buy a ton of cool things like fission reactors, experienced crew members, or pogs. Delta V Rings of Saturn may or may not contain 90s era schoolyard games. Please consult a doctor if you remember pogs, as you are old now. Delta V Rings of Saturn is available now, so head on over to its Steam page today.
Hello, everyone. I'm a mysterious stranger from the land of far away, and I've come to do a podcast with Sebastian Ruiz.
That's a me from a land in between the far away.
And Marty Sleever.
The land's between? Or Elden Ring?
That's a Dark Souls, isn't it?
No, the land's between?
I'm thinking of Things Betwixt.
You're thinking of Things Betwixt. Honestly, if we're being honest, all their games are just remixed of the same 5 ideas. Poison Swamp Things Betwixt over here.
I like Things Betwixt because it reminds me of my favorite chocolate caramel biscuit bar.
Twix?
See? Are you a right or a left Twix man?
Both. I don't fuck around with my Twix.
Just double fist.
Both at once. Then I stick them out of my mouth like fangs and scare the children.
I'm a chocolate.
Anyway, yes. I've been away for a few weeks. First, I was in Washington, D.C., filming Adventurer's Knife, you ungrateful bastards. And then I was in San Francisco covering GDC for you ungrateful bastards. And now I'm doing a podcast for you ungrateful bastards.
3 separate groups of ungrateful bastards.
That's a lot.
Some overlap, but there's also some individual bastards everywhere.
But speaking of ingratitude, this week we're talking about money and the movement thereof. Specifically, micropayments, as everyone's got a bug up their ass about New Dragon's Dogma 2 having micropayments. How do we all feel about that specifically?
It feels like for some reason it's been bubbling up all year. Wait, what do you, Frost? You did the thing where you rub your temples. Which
you did the sensible thing. It's like, oh damn, does that mean I have to be I love microtransactions? I don't expect any 3 of us to go like, you know what? I love microtransactions.
I think some of us are about to defend Dragon's Dogma 2 when we say that as reviewers we didn't really notice any micropayments going into it. I think there was a link to the store on the main title screen, but then it's never really in your face while you're playing the game.
No. This year's been weird because, I feel like there's always an ongoing microtransaction, live service. What should a game cost? What should I get for my money in a game conversation? But it feels like this year, even the big beloved games have all had some conversation around them with this. We've had sort of what is Helldivers? Like, what are you paying for if you're paying money to Helldivers? Like, what is pay to win? What is cosmetic? Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth locked its New Game Plus behind a payment system, which feels very dumb. Persona 3 Reload has announced its epilogue, The Answer, which is a part of its expansion pass, and the expansion pass also includes music from the old Persona games, and so it just feels like every big game has also sort of shot themselves in the foot with I guess less Helldivers, but with what seems like unavoidable microtransactions.
Who's typing very loudly?
Eric, you're very loud typing. It's extremely loud typing. You were so angry.
Oh, what?
That's okay. Frost, I don't know. You've obviously been following some of these games this year. What did you feel about that?
All right, so this is where it's a strange position, because already you've got people who are like, oh, if it's not noticeable, it's fine. If I love the game, it's fine. I would just like to everyone have a step back at the same time. Can we get back to a point where we can just say it exists? That's more or less what I want to get across, is we've gone away from opinion and now we're trying to sort of use our emotion to change, I guess, truth.
Oh,
There is
yes.
no sense of like, okay, is this objectively good or bad? I want to objectively say they exist without someone just like, you just said my mother has microtransactions. Like, how could you? She's free to play, by the way. But it just comes down to the fact I want to be able to say, hey, these are here, and then we'll have this discussion of like, where's good, where's bad. For the Dragon's Dogma one, it raises the question of if you don't need them, if you can just normally play and it doesn't even arise, or even as you said, Marty, if they're not in your face, is that fine?
Well, is it fine to spend money to get an unfair advantage? Are you cheating by using micropayments? Are you using money to get past the challenge you would normally have had to face?
That's the whole thing about this conversation is single-player games and multiplayer games are very different, right?
But the last thing he said, are you using it to get over a challenge? Where I'm just the kind of guy that like if I give somebody like a burger, if they go home and shove it up their ass, that's on them. I don't care if they've ruined my burger image. If they want to cheat, if they want to pay money to get an advantage, have at it. Maybe that's the real conversation is back in my day, you had cheat codes that gave you all this stuff. Now you got to pay for them.
Well, I take the view that saying that you can just ignore something in a game is kind of an invalid argument because any work that goes into that sort of thing is work that could have been spent on something else that could have been good. But in this case, with Dragon's Dogma 2 specifically, the micropayment purchases seem so dumb and pointless. It makes me think of a publisher going to a developer and saying, hey, what can we monetize? And the developer going, this. And the publisher going, that'll do. And no one ever thinking about it ever again.
So that's been like Capcom's MO lately. Capcom's been funny because they've been, in terms of third-party developers, like they've been releasing really good games. Like people think Resi and Street Fighter and Monster Hunter, Devil May Cry are all in very good places for those franchises. Almost all those games have pretty egregious microtransactions that are also pretty ignorable. And my thing with Dragon's Dogma is I don't even remember in the opening menu there being a link to the store. I started the game, and now every time I go back into it on PlayStation, it just boots me right into the game. At no point was there a pop-up that I can buy something. It is so different playing a thing like this than, say, you're playing... I mean, obviously this is a free-to-play mobile game, but before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out, I was playing Ever Crisis, I think was the name of it. And it's this mobile game, that free-to-play mobile game that sort of retells the story of the Final Fantasy VII games. And I was like, I'm enjoying what this is, but I stopped playing because like literally every 30 seconds, it would just inundate you with like snare traps to get into its store. And I'm like, at this point, this is like, it's like I stopped going to a certain mall because every time I walked by stores, someone would be like, hey, do you have a second to come in? Hey, do you want to come in? Like I stopped, I get nervous when I go to the grocery store and I feel bad about the little, the Girl Scouts now. I'm leaving the grocery store and they're like, do you want to buy cookies? And I'm like, I just left the grocery store and I bought cookies. Where were you on the way in?
But you didn't buy Girl Scout cookies.
I would have had they been in the... Don't go to the exit, go to the entrance. What's going on?
Why were they at the exit?
What? It seems foolish. Yeah. I didn't know it until I was leaving the grocery store. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, that's when I always see the Girl Scout cookie sellers. I think one time they came to my door and I was really surprised. I was like, do you still actually do this?
Lazy Girl Scouts.
Did you get anything? Or did you just...
Yeah, fucking got to get my Samoas.
He's a Samoa man. There you go. Lovely. It's interesting that you both have hit on the same point, essentially, where Yahtzee says it can't be ignored because it is essentially a resource that's been spent elsewhere. And now Marty's saying the sinful nature of it is when it's intrusive, when it's constantly in your face. And I do have this idea, I said a while ago, where I say a good game with bad monetization is just a bad game, because I feel monetization is as much game design as any other choice that you could have made. Because it is a very conscious effort to put it in there and say, how does it go with our systems? At worst, it's absolutely redundant. And like Yahtzee said, you just wasted time. Like that could have been like one more bowl cut you could have given me in the hair selection.
Yeah. And it does lead to the live servicey effect that everything in a game is quantified, because if it's quantified, they can sell it to you. Like that's why you get games with 19 different currencies or crafting elements, which are basically just multiple currencies, but with different frontage.
Yeah. I mean, it's also
been
it happens because it works. Like EA and Take-Two reported that 75% of their revenue last year was from microtransactions. And so, Frost, I think about this all the time. I think in a Cold Take script last year, maybe, you wrote about how everyone always says vote with your wallet, and they did. And the verdict is in, and people want microtransactions. So, like, they've spoken. Like, that's happened.
Well, do they though? Because as you've observed, there's been a lot of backlash against microtransactions, specifically recently, against fairly new microtransaction strategies, like the concept of locking New Game Plus behind it, and all the Dragon's Dogma stuff. And I'm wondering if that's because there has been like a major backlash against the concept of live service video games. I mean, we all saw how everyone turned on Suicide Squad on a dime when we saw the menus in the first trailer. Maybe this is like the new wave of microtransaction payments are the publishers trying desperately to find something that isn't just the classic live service monetization model that they can make money on. Hey, maybe New Game Plus will work. Maybe selling the Dragon's Dogma 2 bullshit will work. I know the industry has been under a sort of shift lately. Like audiences are specifically turning against live service. And there's a movement to get away from it.
And it feels like it's becoming a harder pill for a lot of people to swallow because games are also going up in price. Dragon's Dogma was a $69.99 game. After tax, it was $75. And so if people spend $75 and then open up a game, and then the first, again, this wasn't in the case with Dragon's Dogma, but if the first thing you see is, hey, do you want to spend more money? You're like, at a certain point, are games just flights? To where it's like, yeah, we're all on the same flight, but some people are having a much better experience than others because of the money they spent. Like some people are in first class, some people are getting just fucking free champagne, some people are getting a good dinner, then other people are eating, sitting next to fucking Uncle Benjamin as he. I don't know why I was thinking of Uncle Ben because I watched Spider-Man over the weekend.
I was thinking, fucking National Treasure. I was like, what?
Yeah, sitting next to the National Treasure guy. So it's like we can all play the same game, but if someone wants to put up more money, then they can have all the crystals they want right at the start of the game.
But here's the thing, though. Does it do anything? Like Helldivers was a weird one to frame because you have to. This is where there should have been different outcry. But anyway, let's say we're going to McDonald's and there's 3 different menus. And on one menu, there's Big Macs. The next one's got McRib. And the third one's got chicken nuggets. If you're using money after the $30 you've already paid to get in here, and you go, I want chicken nuggets, but you still have to work for it, right? You still have to work a job and then you're able to pay it. But I can unlock that menu first. I can expedite the desired route and make it faster. Whereas if you aren't going to pay any extra money, you're like, well, I got to work my way through the Big Mac menu and then the McRib menu, and then I can get chicken nuggets. And it is this sort of, this is why I see it as much as game design as anything else, is good monetization will feel like you are getting a good deal and like you're a good person. That is not to say that you're stupid or a bad person, but it is hard to differentiate between I am just helping someone maintain their game versus like, well, it's either work a job or help them maintain the servers.
Well, I feel like the simplest solution would be for the McDonald's in this analogy to not be wallpapered in gold and carpeted in diamond fibers.
There you go.
I mean, video games don't need to be as expensive as they are. We've known that for some time, but they can't stop being expensive as they are because it's the fucking Cold War all over again. We've got to keep advancing towards destruction in case the other guy advances faster than us.
Well, and because the CEOs at the top are like, we just need, I can get more bonus.
Yes.
Oh, I can get a bonus tied to microtransaction revenue for a year. So yes, let's keep doing this.
I want my golden parachute to have carbon nanotube lines on it.
Dude,
exactly.
This is how you end up with like a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Wendy's all in the same corner. Because somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to make the move. I just have to make it first.
Is this singular with video games as an art form? Are there comparisons in movies, in books, in music? Like what are the analogs of this?
Well, mainstream movies all suck now.
No, there's man who doesn't.
Literally, last year we had Barbie and Oppenheimer. The 2 highest grossing movies of the year were beloved. Oscar Oscar nominated.
I mean,
Dune
I
Part
didn't
2
watch any.
is incredible. You don't watch any movie.
Hold
You
on.
can't say movies suck if you don't watch
I
movies.
want to know what movies he's watched. The 4 he's watched, so that I could be like, yeah, if those are all I watched, yeah, I think the same too. What were they?
You're asking me what movies have I watched in my entire life?
No, just last
So
year.
yeah, start at the beginning.
You know what? There's a podcast here. I just noticed. We should probably maintain that path.
Oh yeah,
You know,
forgot about that.
now you ask, I don't think I have watched a single movie in the last year.
The movie industry sucks. Man who has not watched a movie in the last year.
Well, maybe it does, but it clearly hasn't enticed me back to it.
You're right.
That's some doofus. That's a doofus argument right there.
I mean, you'd think
maybe
the amount of money the movie industry has to advertise movies and put trailers on every single YouTube video, at least one of them would entice me to actually watch a movie, but none of them have.
What if
I
That's my
do.
point. What is the equivalent of microtransactions in other mediums? Is there one?
popcorn at the movies? Is that not a microtransaction?
You know, I kind of hate that we keep calling it microtransaction. When the term microtransaction was originally coined, the idea was you'd pay like 10 cents for a comic page or 1 cent to read a comic page online.
Sure.
Right? And like the accumulative effect of all the people reading the comic would lead to a nice profit. But $5 is not a microtransaction. $5 is quite a lot of money. That's like 10% of the game's cost.
Oh yeah. How about like post-purchase purchases?
Fine. It's still a dumb name for it.
Triple P,
PPPs.
I mean, is this everyone always brings up the horse armor moment in Oblivion. Like, was that the original sin here? Or was that the moment where it's like, oh, if this is going to be able to fly and sell a lot, then this Pandora's box has been opened and we're not closing this anytime soon?
The horse armor was the usual process. You start with like the outrageous thing that everyone calls stupid. Going, oh my god, you're actually charging money for horse armor. What a ridiculous concept. And then they're the sacrificial lamb. That's the normalizer. You just do something like that, then you do something that's maybe not quite as egregious, like
compared to that first one,
letting people buy in-game currency to save time.
Yeah. Is that what it looked like?
And then, like, some people will still complain about that, but they eventually run out of energy, and then people just keep doing it, and it's all normalized, and now we're stuck with it. But the first one is always the one people complain about, like when Diablo 3 was online only.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone complained about that. And now half the games are online only, and no one's got the energy to complain anymore.
Yeah. And everyone's complaints have moved on to the next thing.
There's plenty of energy, I tell you what.
Do you, I don't know. I'm assuming the answer is no for you, Yahtzee. Have you ever, with your money, bought something in-game like this?
No, I've take enormous pride in the fact that I have never once paid money for a microtransaction. Maybe it does enhance the experience. I wouldn't know. And I probably never will.
Whoa, maybe we got to get you to buy one, just so you can say for sure.
So you can see, yeah. You got to watch a movie, and you have to buy a microtransaction.
Okay. That's my new bucket list.
For the next month. It's interesting, though, and Frost, I'm assuming you have, right?
What?
Because I have. You've bought microtransactions before.
Yeah, and that's why I can empathize.
Okay. Let's analyze this. What was the specific thing that enticed you to buy a microtransaction, both of you?
Drugs, mostly.
Marty, you first.
Costumes in Persona 5.
Oh, fuck. Well, that fucking figures, doesn't it?
I wanted to be able to dress up my party as parties from previous games and other Atlas RPGs, and I had a great time doing it. Let me tell you, zero regrets.
You don't remember fondly the fact that costumes used to be just bundled with the game, like say in the original God of War, the original Spider-Man on PlayStation 1, where you just had a bunch of costumes that were just in the game.
I do remember that. Yeah, I do. I do. It was nice. 9/11 changed everything.
None of those enticed you yet?
No. Oh. Why did you decide that having extra costumes for your Persona characters was worth shelling out actual additional money?
I felt like I was tipping the developers because the service was so good. It's like if I'm at a bar and I'm like, man, you're clearly delivering my drinks before other people's. I like this. I'm laying down a $5 for this.
It's like tipping. It's not like tipping a waitress. It's like tipping a fucking bus driver. You've already paid for the ride. That's the cost.
But maybe he took us by a lot of nice sights.
Well, he did. He wasn't.
No, it's
supposed
not
to.
like tipping the bus driver.
He's a very bad bus driver if he did.
Instead of tipping the bartender, you're tipping the CEO of the Cheesecake Factory. Being like,
exactly.
I really enjoyed this service. So here, millionaire.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he didn't fucking need it. Okay, Frost, what did you spend money on?
Let's see. The first microtransaction I ever done was $5 for a skin on Smite, but this was
again with the skins.
No.
Love skins.
Oh well, yeah, it was a skin. If
couldn't
we're
you
talking
just
the actual
couldn't
thing,
just put like a sticker on your monitor over where the character is to look like he's wearing a hat?
But it was a donation because it was to they were hosting a tournament, and all the money from that skin was going to the tournament. And then they got me again the next time where it was like all the money raised for this goes to charity, and I was like, okay, I'm donating, and this is a pin. Right,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm doing, and at this point, it was also like a small indie game, and I was like, "Well, I want to support it." You feel like a patron to the arts yachts. I'm a Medici giving my $5, and also the amount of money I was making relative to what I was making, like overall, $5 is a microtransaction.
Okay, it wasn't a specific. It was a specific thing you were putting money towards.
Yeah. I was very like many people. Again, you can feel very generous when you're hawking out some money. Like, this is for the developers, right? I am voting for my wallet. I am making
yes, but I think Dawkins wrote in Climbing Mount Impossible that charity is at its heart an act of selfishness.
Absolutely,
it's saying, hey, look at me, I'm so great, you need to depend on me to survive, I must be much better than you. That's why charitable behavior has been observed in nature.
Yeah,
but it was
like certain
Seuss who wrote
certain animals put themselves in danger over the rest of the herd so they can position themselves as superior to the rest of the herd.
Well, here's an interesting turn. Marty, do you still spend on micro stuff? Because I don't. I stopped after that year.
If something would come along that would entice me, that would seem interesting enough. But like, I don't think I've bought any this year.
Can you think of what would entice you at this point?
Persona.
Like, what's your favorite game right now?
I really liked Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Okay, so what would Final Fantasy VII Rebirth have to offer you to make you shell out?
Honestly, costumes from other Final Fantasy games.
All right, well, we've established we know what you like.
No, I think it's more. I'm trying to think of indie examples because I feel like I pulled out an example in a conversation the past few weeks where I said I felt like giving a little extra money that actually felt like tipping the developer because it was a small game. Like if Yahtzee, Stardew Valley is one of your games you go back to all the time, right?
Yeah,
and that just got a big update. That's never had microtransactions, right? Am I right?
No, he has never sold any of his big updates for cash, which is quite frankly insane.
Yeah, which is nuts. Whereas if he was like, hey, I'm releasing this $5 thing, and it's just like something relatively minor, again, maybe new costumes, maybe some event or something. At this point, would you be like, I've gotten so much enjoyment out of this game over the past decade that I don't mind this feeling like a tip? And I feel like in that scenario, it actually does feel like a tip.
No, I probably wouldn't. I paid him money for my original purchase of the game, and if I don't really feel like I want the additional thing, then I won't buy it.
There you go.
I mean, I'm generally the kind of person who gets set in their ways. So if they added a new DLC or a new bunch of content, I'd be like, well, now I'd have to do all the extra work to get that, and I can't be bothered. I'm just sticking with what I know.
Yeah.
Have any of us donated to Wikipedia?
No.
Oh, okay, here we go. Yes, I've donated to Wikipedia.
It's like donating to that's like helping fund the library, though.
Yeah. Like I use Wikipedia all the time, and I've never paid any money for it. That just seems fair.
Yeah.
See, this is interesting because of the things that we do and don't pay for and our views of being generous. I stopped justifying generosity, as you said, when of this idea of like, no, I'm just doing this because it makes me feel good. So instead of doing like, here's $5 for this, instead I'll go here. I'm just gonna buy 5 people's copies of this game because I like the developer. It's usually indie games like Islets or Haiku or anything Lucas Pope's done where I'm like, here, gifting, here, enjoy. I'm not just being charitable. Like, I want you all to develop taste is how I take that. But in that sense,
buying a copy to gift to someone else, that's just, that's getting value out of your purchase, isn't it? Because I'd like give games to a wife, and then my wife goes, oh, I really enjoyed that game you gave me. And I'm like, yes, I'm a good husband.
There you go.
Maybe you have someone to talk about the thing with, and like, there's a selfish reason behind it, I guess.
But that's interesting.
I'm generally suspicious of charity, probably because like I've been shopping at Whole Foods a lot, and every time like you get to the counter that says, "Oh, do you want to donate money to charity? Why wouldn't you want to do that, you bastard?" And you know it's just Amazon's part of Amazon's huge tax avoidance scam. So I say no with pride.
Yeah.
No, I will not give a donation to charity. And now
funny.
every time that comes, that's just the world that Amazon has created. It makes me very suspicious of anything with an ostensibly charitable motivation.
Grand. I love how I am between the two of you here. Between your generosity and your not so much cynicism. I think it is you see it for what it is, so you choose to find other things that you view as actually more generous. Like if you want it to be about generosity, then go be generous. Don't try and justify your retail therapy, as it were. And I think that to me is the crux of the matter, because we're not so much fighting, is it good, is it bad? I think people start to identify with their games, and because games are so, it's almost harder to separate microtransactions from the games. Their identity is starting to be part of what they spend on. So if you say these are bad, I'm bad, and can't have that.
All right. Well, can we all agree that it is bad if something that one would consider essential to the ultimate game experience is gated behind a microtransaction?
Yes.
Okay, then.
What is essential? What is the definition of essential, though? That's why I feel like this line is different for everyone, and not only different for everyone, but different in certain scenarios. Like for me, I am like, I like these games, so I will buy costumes in them, and then I see other games with costumes, and I'm like, you fucking idiots. You Overwatch idiots buying your Cowboy Bebop costumes, and meanwhile, I'm like, all my Persona friends are back.
That's it. I love it. He's hit it. That's it. If I like it, it's good. If I don't, it's bad.
Humans are fucking dumb. Myself included. I'm the human who is dumb.
Okay, let's figure out where the line is.
All right.
If you were playing a shooter and you had to pay a microtransaction for your gun, would that be too much?
Is it my only gun?
Yes. We're starting at the top.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, we're going as scummy as
if possible. I cannot engage with the core mechanic without buying money, without spending money, I would consider that ridiculous. Yes.
Okay. If you were playing a shooter and you had to pay a microtransaction for your rocket launcher as well as the rest of your guns, would that be too much?
Ooh, now he's talking loadouts. I feel like because you just.
I mean, let's go with specifics. You're playing Quake. You're playing the original Quake. And you can have every gun that's in the original Quake except for the rocket launcher. Would you pay microtransaction for that? Would that be annoying?
Well, if you're playing online, then people are going to have a rocket jump, and then that's going to be a competitive advantage at that point.
You could learn to grenade jump.
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, Quake. Famously, the original Quake game has like 3 guns that are all just a previous gun you've got, but better.
I thought
the rocket launcher is just the grenade launcher, but better.
I want your line to keep going down because I'm excited when we start talking about would you pay for a bullet? Because I'm like, now that's an interesting game. I want to talk about that game where bullets cost money.
Okay, would you pay for a game where you could buy a special bonus bullet that gives the enemy characters big anime bobbleheads?
I would not, and if
Marty, what if they look like Persona 5 characters?
I feel like I might just to troll people.
I mean, at this point, you're almost talking about like the different modes and like GoldenEye or Perfect Dark had those like unlockable sort of modifiers to where you could be like Donkey Kong mode or paintball mode, like that kind of thing.
Sure. I think the reason I'm so cynical about it is because I know a time of when things were. Like the game is the game, right? And also we talked about Balatro. You can start a new profile and unlock everything. It'll just give you everything. That's more or less what I'm used to as far as games go. So whenever people nowadays are just thinking, oh, Helldivers and Dragon's Dogma isn't as bad as like, I don't know, Genshin, and Genshin's not as bad as mobile games, right? Where I go, it's not, I don't care for this sliding scale of like, we went from we shit to bed to just we only pissed on it now. Just go to sleep. Shut up.
Like, so you're saying it should be either everything is fine or none of it is. that we should just like draw a line in the sand and say we paid $60 in the store, we unlocked all the content with our credit card in that single moment, and there should be no more like nickel and diming after that.
I think that with either a like, here's my PayPal to donate to, or they can sell extra cosmetic stuff in the sense of like, here's the skin, because you are not supporting a developing studio. You are receiving this skin. Like if that's
now we're getting back in the weeds, because who's to say cosmetic can't give an advantage? What if a cosmetics was like an outfit that's camouflaged with the background?
If it's single player, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's single player and it's not. Sorry, I got really emotional talking about microtransactions. If it's single player and it's not in my face, I don't care. You can let someone spend $1,000 in that game. I do not give a shit. If it's
I'm more lenient there, because if it's single player and it is in my face, but I can still like get away from that. Like I play tons of mobile games and the ads are so intrusive, but I don't know. I do some squats. If anything, they're my workout regimen, you know. So
watch a 30-second ad.
Yeah,
get a couple. A
couple of sit-ups in the way.
Yeah, a couple energy points. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could just skip. Just wait a few seconds and skip.
No, some of the ones you need in order to like get the thing, you need to watch the full 30-second ad in the mobile game.
Yeah.
Oh, one of those. No.
Yeah, one of those.
No, I don't
those games.
I don't really play mobile games that do that anymore. I just play the New York Times crossword app.
I was about to say that, but I was like, it's not an own if he's just gonna eat it. So
it's interesting how this is it's become more and more normalized in the same way, slightly different, but how like gambling in sports has become more and more normalized to the point where ESPN has shows all about gambling and about odds, and DraftKings has their own like media companies and stuff. And then the media is trying to cover like, oh, is sports gambling? Is this an epidemic? Yeah. Like, oh no, was Shohei Ohtani, have a gambling problem? And it's like, well, you're all cashing the checks from this, so like, what's going on here? And I feel like this is, like Frost said, I feel like the microtransaction thing is people get mad at the examples they don't like and then find excuses for the examples they do like. Except for Yahtzee. Yahtzee doesn't like any of them.
Unless you're Wikipedia.
I'm still going with the either it's all good or none of it is.
Yeah.
Argument.
I just feel like that's too simple. Like that's just not how the world works.
Clarity.
Like,
maybe the world needs to be more simple. Maybe we'd all have a better time if the world was simple. If we all went back to having kings and the kings didn't have bum cancer.
You know, imagine
everything was simple back then.
Things were simple.
Yeah.
I'm more of the clarity. Like, if a game says for this single player cosmetic, this thing that will not impact gameplay in any way whatsoever, and it's single player, even if it did, no one would be privy to it. $20. That's all I want. Because things could be simpler, as Yahtzee said. We don't need multiple currencies. We know that's just so we can't keep track of how much we're actually spending. You know, that's the thing that gets me is like, you could have not done this. Not so much you could have not monetized and post-purchase purchases. You could have done this in a less scummy way. And that's sort of the thing that gets me. But the more manipulative way just makes more money. Like Path of Exile, it's just sheer cosmetic and big whale purchases. And they're just clear about that. Like, hey, this does nothing. This is just for you. Like, okay, have at it. But
it's also funny that this came out with Dragon's Dogma 2, because Capcom has just done this with all of their big recent games that people have loved, with Devil May Cry and with the Resi games. And it's just like, this is the one that blew up for some reason. And I don't know if it's like, people want to get mad at journalists. Or
I think it's because it wasn't mentioned. I think we've gone away from that level of journalism where it was like, I grew up on Total Biscuits and Yahtzee's. Yahtzee's very, to his opinion and experience, Total Biscuit is very like, I am literally telling you what's in this menu. No 60 frames per second, no VSync, no none of that, right? But we've shifted away from that to the point of like, just saying or not saying something is having your opinion as well. If you didn't mention it, it's because you are in the pocket and you think it's okay. Whereas, like, I think we've just gotten so far away from, let me state the thing is there, and you can have your own opinion on the matter. So, it's a weird place, this, with microtransactions.
Sure is. Shall we go to Super Chats and see what the audience thinks?
Let's go to the YouTube microtransactions.
Ha 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 ha. We're complicit. Har har har. Seriously though, give us money.
Thank you, everyone. You're all very sweet, and everything costs so much money.
Give me a
Everything
second.
costs so much money.
Just gotta bring them up because I'm not a professional, and a professional would have gotten this up earlier.
Oh, I thought you did. I thought you did a really great job. I'm really proud of you. Also, to show how big of a thing these are still in, like how this isn't going away, is that entire like giant Apple versus Epic court case was about.
Yeah, I saw that.
Microtransaction was about like Fortnite having their own, in-app store that circumvented Apple's monopoly on microtransactions.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the thing that Shashank was bringing up. Why bring up the microtransaction thing? Because imagine Elden Ring suddenly, like the DLC has a microtransaction where you can, like, I don't know, have more
a bunch of levels,
more healing vials or something. Like Dragon's Dogma,
just like
to me
extra
at
Estus
least.
flasks or whatever.
Yeah, there you go, an extra Estus instead. Where Dragon's Dogma to me was sold as a bit of a hardcore game. Is that not the vibe? I heard it was like a little more just less handholdy, do things, you know?
I find it kind of piss easy.
Oh, never mind then.
I've been playing as...
I'm finding the opening the opening 7 to 10 hours are pretty easy so far.
I've been playing as a thief. I do crazy damage. I've got 3 friends also doing damage.
And I'm so fast, nothing can touch me. Yeah.
What's with the save
and I
thing,
can just...
Why don't they allow multiple saves?
Because they're dumb.
They said they're adding those in after launch, actually. They said they're fixing... that's in their patch notes this morning. They said things they're working on is like updating the save system.
No way. I hate games now. I want to just...
Yahtzee, do you think all games should have 100 save files? This was an argument we had when you weren't here. I said all games should have 100 save files, and it should go down. Your score should go down by 1 every save file it doesn't have. So Dragon's Dogma gets a 1 out of 100 in my mind.
I think that's a curious metric to judge all games on.
Okay. Do you think all games should have multiple save files?
Yes.
Does yours?
Yes.
How many?
Good. That would have been fucking gotcha if he didn't.
Oh yeah. Turn on the game, press start game. Like there's 6 slots right there.
Ooh,
all say like you just pick this. Like you have to pick your slot before you do anything else.
It's not 100, but 6 is good.
6 out of 100
allows for experimentation. I approve of that.
I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't program in more. I just couldn't be asked to create, a little slidey box to be able to show them all at once.
Jay was saying that they start taking up a lot of memory or taking up a lot of storage.
Well, maybe for some games.
Yeah,
my save files in my game are just like text document dumps.
There you go.
Oh, that's neat.
Anyway, about those super chats we were about to go into.
Yay.
Wesley Thomas gives 5 Canadian and says, a fully priced game has no excuse for microtransactions. Back in my day, you paid $50 and got the whole thing. And the characters were attractive too. Oops, showing his age a bit there.
Wait, back in your day, the characters were attractive. Like the characters were attractive on like Super Nintendo.
Maybe he's one of those people. Maybe he's one of those people who complained about Aloy in the latest Horizon game having too many pores in her skin.
No, they're polysexual, but think they mean polygons.
What was the first video game character you ever found attractive, Yahtzee?
Just thinking back to all those magazine ads I used to jerk off over when I was a teenager.
Glad we got here.
I love it. This is what I missed.
This was like I was probably at that age around the sort of Lara Croft era when she was like first became a thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess I'd just be boring and say Lara Croft.
No, that's fine.
Because she had big titties and a nice face.
Some of us romance on in Persona 5. That's me. I do.
No, that's like that's like a puberty thing, isn't it? That doesn't really cross your mind as when you're a kid that characters are physically attractive.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, Remember, I said I was kind of weirdly attracted to the mouse in Rescue Rangers, and I didn't know what was going on.
Gadget.
Yeah.
Man, you just brought some memories of Web 1.0 shooting back. Because I remember I once found a random website in the middle of nowhere that was simply called Ranger Files Against Gadget Erotica, or RAGE. And it was like this discussion board, people who really like Rescue Rangers, but who really couldn't abide erotic fan art of Gadget.
That was great.
Oh, what a time!
And I remember the logo was like a topless gadget looking offended with like a no symbol covering up the nips.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Good. I gets it across. What was yours, Marty?
Anyway,
It was Gadget.
okay, Frost.
I guess from the NES game.
You said video. Oh, okay.
From the NES. No.
It's one of the old Tekkens. I don't know, but there was an absolute babe in the cutscene trailer that played at the start, and I was as a little kid, and at this point, I'd been raised with like Lola, not Lola Rabbit, Mrs. Roger Rabbit or whatever.
Right.
And
did it make your winky twinkle?
It did not make the winky twinkle, for I'm a Spanish and hot-blooded, and I leaned in for a kiss on the TV. And back then, if you recall, the CRTs, if you kissed them, it was static. Sparks flew between me.
Yeah.
I don't know who she was. It tasted like a battery.
But if you put your face too close to the screen, a lot of the detail gets lost. You'd just be kissing a load of red, green, and blue bars at that point.
That's what it ended up being. That was love. And I was like 3, 4. I don't know. I liked women from a young age. I don't know.
Well, this has all been jolly enlightening, but moving on. Fox D gives $5 and says some simulation games use microtransactions as the hobby shop model. The hobby shop's just virtual for Train Sim World or Truck Simulator or even Sims 4. Well, that's something we haven't talked about. The microtransactions providing the living for people who make extremely niche hobbyist games.
Sure.
I used to know devs who kept the lights on making like train simulators, and they made crazy money from that. Like, what's the game that's got like $1,000 in microtransactions? That's just all different trains or trucks.
Yeah, I think a lot of those like hardcore truck sims just have that, and it's because their audience isn't casuals. Their audience are the people to where this is almost like the hobby for them. It's like the one game they play, and they're retired truck drivers, and they just want to remember the glory days of driving trucks. Apparently, those people are very, very picky about realism. Like, if you include a new truck in your microtransaction, it has to be exactly realistic, exactly like the truck, how it is in real life, or people will throw a big old strop. That's the gamble you go with when you make something that niche.
I mean, they're like that too. The way, like, truck drivers, they don't just pay for in-game cosmetics. They be pimping their trucks out too.
They be pimping.
They do.
Brad gives $2 and says, podcasts are live services and super chats are microtransactions.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Well, we're providing a service. You give us money, we read out your stupid questions.
Sometimes it's stupid statements.
Or statements.
Not always a question.
Exactly.
Yeah, not always a question. You know what? I think all these questions are great. And you know what? They provide a lot of fodder for some interesting, enlightening, and entertaining conversations. So I think you're all great.
Yes, he does.
And have you lost weight? Oh, you guys are looking real svelte today. No, I was talking to them, not you guys. You guys both look great.
Thank you.
You guys always look great.
I was like, oh.
You guys always look great.
Just
a couple of handsome boys.
Yeah, that's because you can't see below my waist. You can't see how my muffin top's doing. Backpack gives $5 and says, in the history of indie games, which game do you think was more important, Cave Story or Undertale? Well, Cave Story, I'd say. That was like the pioneer. Yeah. That was the original, that was the tone setter for PC indie gaming.
What's so good about this bloody thing? I have it on Epic for free, and I keep looking at it, and I was just like...
It's the original retro-style indie game.
To me, it's important versus good. I think Undertale's better, probably. Again, having not played Undertale, I assume Undertale's a more enjoyable game, but Cave Story's place in history. You know, it's like saying like Super Mario Brothers 1, very important game. Later Mario games are better, but Mario 1 is the most important.
Cave Story is actually a really well-designed game. Undertale's great, but it's not got the complexity of design of Cave Story, which feels more impressive in a way.
Thing is, can you have Undertale without everything else? Because it is a very subversive game, you know?
Well, quite.
Sure, there would be no Undertale without...
Undertale is building off the many traditions, Cave Story among them.
Yeah, people tell me Braid. There you go. That's the real answer.
That's getting a fancy version in a month.
Oh, that was like years after Cave Story.
Yeah, that was like when indie games started like penetrating the mainstream, and that was a part of Xbox Live Summer of Arcade and stuff like that. And we had our indie game rock stars.
Braid was XBLA.
Yeah.
Limbo as well, I think, around the same time.
Yeah, those are two of the big ones. Meat Boy.
Jacob Kitty gives $5 and says, I think the difference between the MTX microtransactions in Dragon's Dogma 2 and something like Helldivers 2 is that's a live service where you're paying for the game's continued upkeep. Well, we were talking about that, about making micropayment as a conscious donation to the creators. But whether you're doing that to help them physically keep the lights on or just because you like their product, I guess is up to the individual choice.
Yeah, I mean, is that like... Yeah, I guess there's the two things. There's the altruistic answer of like, I've liked this game, and so I want to continue supporting the developers, which I've done with some games before. But then there's also the, I want to keep up with this live ongoing game, and in order to sort of stay in the conversation and stay in the zeitgeist, I kind of need to shell out a little bit of dosh to keep up with the times of an evolving game, right?
That charged me 30 at the start.
Yeah, so that's the other. Do you mean that in a good way or in a bad way? Because 30 compared to the 70 I just paid seems like a cheaper game, but 30 compared to a free-to-play game feels like a lot.
There was a time when multiplayer-only games were sold. There was a time when multiplayer-only games were sold for like half or like a fraction of the cost of like the single-player game, because it was generally understood that if a game didn't have a full single-player campaign, it wasn't worth full price.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Those are the days I want to get back to.
I just want single-player games
now. Yeah, if there's no replayability, oh boy, you got to justify your full price.
Yeah.
James Morgan gives $1.99 US and says the problem is they are aimed at children. Whoa. Yeah, thanks, Mrs. Lovejoy. Are they? I wouldn't say they were these days.
What games? I mean,
I don't
think are the kids playing Dragon's Dogma?
How are children making money?
I mean, has this really been a problem since that whole Smurfberries story? Do you remember that? When some kid was playing like the Smurf mobile game and kept accidentally buying Smurfberries with microtransactions because it wasn't clearly signposted that it was like charging to the credit card every time?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the problem isn't... I think maybe James meant the problem is when they are aimed at children, which there are some games like, your Fortnites and Pokemon Go and sort of anything of the ilk that you could say at that point it's predatory. And there's even been, there was legislation in Europe based on that of like, if your game is marketed towards children, that it is predatory to have sort of those kind of gambling loot boxy microtransaction things without the need for like parental consent or anything.
It gets to semantics again, because our video games not for children, And
I mean, they're always exploitative. Some people are just. It could be exploitative against children, but should we also be legislating against exploiting dumb people? Because that seems like a lot of where the money's coming from.
I mean, a lot of things exploit dumb people, though.
Yeah, but then,
where's the line? At what point are people on their own? At what point are we saying, right, you're not a child anymore, so we're no longer protecting you from your horrible decisions?
Yeah. I'm still a child, help.
Anyway, Tommy Salty gives 10 Polish zlotys and says, this is my microtransaction for second win shenanigans. Well,
I think we just there needs to be a man, Microtransaction, and everyone needs to be able to yell at that man. Once a year, it's like the Purge, except everyone can find a man named Microtransaction and just get all your anger out on him.
But that's why we're fighting. That's
you want you want a scapegoat in a literal sense.
I want a scapegoat or like a sin eater. Yeah.
But that's a problem though, because if you see one person beating microtransactions for like the Dragon's Dogma thing, it's like, hey, no, don't hit him. You should hit this one because that one's pay to win.
That's you should hit Microtransactions' dad or Microtransactions' employer.
It's just one. There's just one microtransaction, and everyone can wait in line. And you get to the front of the line, and then you express the microtransaction you're angry at, and then you're like,
well, that would only work if Microtransaction was responsible for the microtransactions. Like every company who wanted to have one in the game had to run it by Microtransaction, and he had to put a big stamp.
That's not how sin eaters work. People don't
run it
care
by
if
me.
it's actually people just want to get their anger out. They don't care if it's actually.
Well, I'm surprised
guided towards the right person.
Well, I'm surprised no one's brought this up yet, but it seems the Sin Eater concept is a slightly flawed idea.
Well, we don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wojtek gives $5. Says Frost brought up a good point that microtransactions are like cheat codes for single-player games. The only difference is paying for a game you've already bought.
It's interesting that they just went away. Right? Like as a kid, I would have just assumed cheat codes were going to be there forever.
Yeah.
And then they just went away. They just became this. And I don't know when it happened. It just felt like one of those. I don't know if it happened so gradually. I just didn't realize it. But this is gonna be a dumb question. Does GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption, do they have cheat codes?
I think
Red Dead
these
2?
days, what we used to call
Mods?
cheat codes were basically like dev codes, so the developer could debug stuff without having to do all the work.
Yeah.
And these days, devs can just patch out the dev codes after release, so who cares?
Wait, why would you need big head mode to troubleshoot? What is that for?
Maybe you're trying to find a dead pixel on the face texture. I don't know.
think they might have originally started on that, but then I think developers got cheeky and silly and wanted to include those because it was sort of before the proliferation of the internet. It was it felt secret. It was like a thing. Oh, my friend on the playground gave me this piece of paper and it has a code on it. What happens if I enter it? Yeah.
Fox D gives $5. Says, here's quite a lot of money. I can throw it around like it's nothing. According to Yahtzee, I'm a rich fat cat. Woo. Look, I said in comparison to the original idea of micropayments, $5 is a lot, Fox D. Like I said, the original idea was it was just like pennies, a coin, to read another page, so you wouldn't even think about it. But $5 is a payment you have to put thought into.
What do you think the inflation ratio is on microtransactions? Given old money and old costs compared to these, do you think it still stands?
I don't know.
What would a horse armor cost today?
There's no fixed price for any of these. People can put out microtransactions $30 if they want.
It's all just money laundering, really.
Yeah. Also, Fox D, speaking of rich fat cat, the villain of Chippendale's Rescue Rangers was named Fat Cat.
Was Fat Cat, yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the villains, yes.
Gadget found herself in a lot of scrapes and scraps with that man.
Best not thought about, really. SVSguru 2000 gives €5 and says, it always starts with just the tip, and before you know it, there's the entire arm.
Jesus.
Whose arm?
Oh my God.
But then
maybe it is actually a horse that we're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a slippery slope, but the slope's already been slipped, I think. Again, this box isn't closing.
I'm not. Yeah, I would just like to be able to mention it. That's it.
Sure.
Is that just loser talk, though? I mean, slavery.
I think it's realistic talk.
I mean, slavery was woven into every fabric of society around back in the day. It took a lot of work to unpick that. It took a lot of work to denazify Germany after the Second World War. Just because it's a lot of hard work doesn't mean we should just throw up our hands and say we can't get rid of this.
I would argue that those were slightly bigger problems than microtransactions.
Well, you say that, but the global economy is fucked. We need to be saving money wherever we can.
Money's not cheap.
Yeah, universal healthcare, this would be gone immediately. If everybody's got money they don't have to spend on their little treats, they actually don't have to worry about the stresses of life, and you'll be like, wait a minute, maybe I don't want this horse armor. Maybe I want to actually spend it elsewhere, be more generous. So really what we should be fighting for is socialized healthcare. That's what this is all about.
I think what we should be fighting for is better education, so that everyone can be fully informed on why voting against their own interest is stupid.
Oh, but it feels good. I love voting against my own interests.
Like a big idiot. Also, if you want to buy a great game that came out this weekend without any microtransactions, may I introduce you to Princess Peach, Showtime! What a wonderful 7 hours that game was.
Man, I thought we already did the ad on this podcast. KingDead42 gives $2 and says for Yahtzee's horse armor. Thank you very much. I'll put it on toffee.
Oh, that would be cute.
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says cosmetics with a warning that they're optional without flashy Vegas style signs hypnotizing dumb kids into spending dollars. How hard is this to implement, AAA? Well, you assume they actually want to prevent kids being hypnotized, Alex Armstrong. As far as AAA is concerned, everything's working exactly as intended.
That being said, this is a whole other can of worms. I probably shouldn't even be bringing it up. If anyone is upset at microtransactions because they're predatory towards children, but also doesn't think we need to reform our gun laws in the U.S., your opinion's fucking stupid.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Like, I'm just saying that you can't pearl clutch and say one thing is for the children if another thing that is legitimately hurting the children is something that you're like, well, it's just fine. At that point, I'm not saying that this person.
Who the fuck was arguing against gun laws?
I am just saying that you have plenty of people, you have the gamers out here who get very angry at microtransactions, and I think a lot of those very same the gamers also hold like they're using the children as a shield to try to say this is why they're bad. It's because they're going against the children. I just personally like shouldn't the parents be watching over the kids?
That's more or less where I'm at. Where it's like if you're gonna go, think of the kids. Well, it's like you know there are people out there that exist that think gaming is manipulative and a waste of time for your children. Sure. That lady that was talking about that Tetris kid, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
It just becomes super subjective once more. Like, think of the children. How much shall I think of the children?
Yeah.
Should I, maybe any games with any kind of cleavage should just be gone. Like, where is that happening? That's why I just want to get to the point of
in what world do children not like tits? I mean, I think every age of child likes tits.
I don't think I had opinions on them as a kid.
Well, if you're a baby, you like sucking on them. If you're older, they're nice squashy cushions for you to rest your head on. And when you're even older, you can jerk off to them.
I found one of Yahtzee's universal truths.
Tits for everybody.
No, there's also a span where I didn't care about them.
H-Bomb's in the chat. Hey, H-Bomber guy, it was fun hanging out.
You're wearing a suit of armor.
For the 3 minutes.
Hashtag Lord.
There you go.
The 3 minutes we had to talk at GDC.
That's why I think I'd like to form a more objective and very clear approach. Here's what's in the game. Here's what it's known to cause pros and cons. You do what you will with that. Outside of this, think of the children. How many children? 5 children? How many children am I thinking about here? Where do I draw that line?
I mean, do you want me to go and man the Lollipop Lady crossing so the children can get to school easily? I don't have time for that.
And do people just not do their own research? All that information exists for us. If someone's not gonna put in the effort to educate themselves a little bit before a purchase, then I don't know. It's on you.
Well, then we're back to just saying people should be educated more.
Yeah,
which is what it all comes back to in the end.
Yeah, I do like this because I think this, even us 3 here in this room, are just reflecting the state of the discussion. Outside of it is that it seems to just go grander. It's almost unavoidable to just go from here to what if the economy wasn't shit? What if the politics weren't trash?
Yeah, like I say, it should all come back to education. I mean, Marty was saying, shouldn't this be the job of the parents? Well, then educate the parents more. Education, like what Tony Blair said.
I see. It's my OSHA background where I just want big yellow signs. Again, I want clarity so that if someone then is like, hey, this manipulated me, I was like, there was a big old sign right there.
Anyway,
manipulation. Yeah.
I got to start getting through these super chats quicker because there's a ton of them still.
Ooh.
Eric Wycart. Oh, Eric. Hi, Eric. How you doing? Gives 50 arses and says, I bought every single DLC for Smash Brothers Ultimate, including me costumes. I'm not sorry.
You bought the me costumes?
Oh, dear.
That's where my line was drawn. I was like, you bought me costumes? You bought costumes for those ugly little cretins?
and then Eric, just as you start judging him, gives another 20 to arses and says, am I the only person here that bought WinRAR?
Yes.
And that throws us all for a loop, doesn't it? Because I certainly didn't.
No. You're like, I could just keep saying no, and that's fine. Okay, I will keep doing that.
King and Commoner gives $5 and says, for a new microtransaction name, I propose ADLC, already downloaded content.
Clever.
Ouch.
Pretty clever.
Philip J. Frylock gives $6.90 US, says, please accept my nice microtransaction. I will certainly.
69. That was the sex line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
John Connor gives $5 and says, illegal question. Have any of you sent a super chat or Patreon to creators? For me, the smaller they are, the better it feels.
What do you mean illegal?
No.
Question? I mean, a Patreon to create it? Yeah, I subscribe to Patreons.
I've got, I've done, I think that's
I
what
subscribe to like
Marty.
half a dozen to 10 Patreons, probably.
That's I've been on Twitch and whatnot. Sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I am subscribed to any Patreons. But I still like you to subscribe to ours.
Wasn't there a game once that you did? No, you're not a Kickstarter guy. What did I swear you mentioned a Patreon once?
No.
Probably some kind of wood carpenter. I don't know.
No, I reserve my money for my lovely family.
There you go.
Incredible.
And my 2 kids and adorable dog.
What about when you were a bachelor? Did you not buy anything?
Yeah, I bought stuff. I wasn't on any Patreons. I hadn't even pay money to the extremely niche porn sites.
So there you go. It all
consumed.
goes back to this. as you were.
Urban M gives 50 Polish zloty and says, there's an old story about the nature of charity that boils down to if you donate for, let's say, orphanage, whether it was selfish ego boosting or tax avoidance, do you think the children care?
But now it's back to the kids. Who are these children? Whose kids are they?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Name the child. Let's name names. Little Timmy. Do you think little Timmy cares? Blue McDee's Nuts gives $2 and says, I'd pay to grief. Twitch monetizes viewer griefing. I didn't realize they'd monetize that. I know there's plenty of games where you can add your Twitch and the viewers can start fucking with you.
I mean, you can. People also have like things to like goofs. Like you could pay to have a goof pop up in the chat, and that could be ostensibly griefing. I added to my Twitch stream. I added the entire Evangelion congratulations clapping, which takes like 20 seconds to end, and so people can trigger that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you give them like an obvious way to grief, you can funnel them away from griefing in other ways.
See, maybe they would have griefed by committing crimes, and instead they're griefing
potentially harmful ways.
Exactly.
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, micropayments have been around since arcades were invented. AAA just made it more exploitable by switching pay to try again to pay to continue stroke win. Yeah, it was shitty when arcades did it as well.
We're back
and then home gaming came along and stopped charging us money for every go, and everyone agreed that was better.
We're back to quarters.
What's your point?
Yeah, saying that it's like the continuation of that is, I do kind of agree with Yahtzee. It's like, well, there was no other way you just couldn't have these things at home. And then when it was like, oh no, we can have these experiences at home just fine, or we can get the communal version of it online, it was like, oh, these are kind of pointless now.
Yeah, and the arcade tradition tainted video game design for a long time, as Frost was talking about how it affects design. The whole lives system was a holdover from the arcade days, and games had those for way too long.
Yeah.
Like even Super Mario Galaxy had lives for no fucking reason.
Yeah, it is. The way things are is the way things are. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Odyssey was the first mainline Mario game that didn't have lives. Did you know that?
Hell, that's a fun fact.
They just take
some coins or some shit.
Yeah, they just take your coins away when you die.
Yeah.
Which was the first one to like give you lives, but if you lost them all, it didn't matter.
I think there were a few other like mainline Mario games in the recent days, like Galaxy, like Sunshine, where you'd lose all your lives, and all they do was they like kick you out of the current level.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have to restart the entire game. I think that was once probably Mario 3 or Mario World probably rolled around with the save system. Didn't have to beat it all in one go.
Elise Tanner gives $19.99 and says, research shows that people with addictive personalities are exploited with randomized loot boxes, and kids get bullied when they have default skins. And those are both examples of things you don't have to buy to play. Still icky.
Kids get bullied because of their Fortnite skins.
Things get bullied about anything, but not. And this is where you gotta be careful. I'd even say for us,
Yeah, I mean, you
because
can't save everyone, can you?
a lot of the think of the children also stems out to think of neurodivergency, which is
Sure.
is exploitative in
Sure.
that sense, which just you know you could say yay, you could say nay. It just goes back to my clarity thing. We wouldn't be here if they would just post a sign. It would be tacky. Is that why you guys don't want them? It'd be a very ugly sign.
I mean, what do you mean a sign? Like, so is this on the it's on the onus of the publisher to put this?
Yes.
Here's everything included in our game.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, the
There you
publishers
go.
are never going to do that unless it's profitable. So it's up to the government to enforce
Sure, like
laws
having to
against
put
publishers.
your score, like whatever what's the restaurant score? Like, we don't have any rats. We got this.
Yeah.
Your health inspector.
Yeah.
Yeah, your health inspector score. Yeah, do games
No
need, like, an
rats at
official?
Chuck E. Cheese. What the hell?
I had no idea kids were getting bullied because of their Fortnite skins.
It's not a common occurrence. The problem is it happens, and then people sort of reflect mass empathy on it, and it's
Sure,
like, oh,
sure.
what
Yeah,
about that?
because-
Like, what
Well,
about
maybe
the
it's
one or
true,
two
but the question is, what the fuck do you do about that? Besides the force everyone to wear the same uniform like it's school.
times? More anti-bullying, other kind of stuff. It's we're trying to put band-aids on a lot of wounds here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love for
Trust
someone
me.
to bully me based on my skin in a game. Because I would love to just be able to look at them and then reply to them and ruin their day.
If you ask me, it all comes back to education. They should have educated the bully's parents so they got better jobs and didn't lead to the bully having to grow up in a broken home and want to bully people.
I'd love to see this world of yours where, like, the bully now gets educated, and then the bully's parents do because you weren't taught right. And now, yeah, I'd love to see this. I'm like,
Because basically everyone gets free school up until they get their doctorates. That's the
What do
ideal
we think?
world.
Like, what's the coolest skin to have in Fortnite? Like, is there a designer like, oh, I'm wearing my Nike Air Jordans? Like, is there the equivalent of that in Fortnite? Is it like my Peter Griffin, my Solid Snake? Kids don't give a shit if you're running around a Solid Snake in that game, right?
No, they don't. Funny, it's the skin I have because I played when I first started, and I got the skin for free. But this is one of the OGs and hardest to get. But to me, I just feel old, right? Like, oh, well, here I am in my old skin. Yeah, apparently the one I have, which is one of the OGs, is super rare, and it's like showing up in these decked out vintage Nike Cortezes or something. Like,
It's not like it's not a character. It's a Fortnite character. It's not like a person.
No,
like,
it is a
Goku.
skin. It was like an alternative skin.
Yeah, but it's not like it's not taken from another property.
No, it's not an IP. No.
No, that's what I'm wondering. Like, Peter Griffin is cool.
Usually
Kids are like, you're not cool because you're not dressed up as Family Guy, which is like the most basic fucking comedy imaginable.
They bully each
You're not
other
dressed up
back
as
and
Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I wish Kevin McCall. No, they bully each other back and forth because like these skins start to be seen as the sweaty skins. Like, oh my god, you have this skin and you paid money for it and you're trash. Get out of my games. Like, it's kids will bully for anything. It was
Incredible. Sorry.
Anyway, if we're done talking about shit I don't care about,
children.
Brad gives $2 and says, "Is ad-free upgrade on a free mobile game a microtransaction?" Well, no, I think of that as just buying the game.
That's a terrorist negotiation. If I ever see one.
Well, if it's a free game and you pay a little money so you don't have to look at the ads anymore, that's just paying for the game. That's the business model, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's good that you mentioned that. Then it becomes perception because a lot of people would actually say no to that. I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Someone got to pay for these free mobile games. Then designers got to eat.
I see it as a compromise, right? It's like, I'm not paying $2. Sure, I'll watch your ads. So, I don't know.
Yes, I'm defending it because this is the monetization that Hatfall had on mobile.
Oh,
you paid to get rid of the ads.
You had
that was it. That was the only like microtransaction in that game.
Scumbag.
Why weren't you thinking of the children?
I was. I made a nice game for them to play.
I wanted their money.
Tsunami Dusha gives $20 and says, "Monhun for you DLC." Monster Hunter 4 or something, I assume.
Right.
One-time cost, 30% of main game, released a year after launch. Difficult quests to earn armor referencing different series. Mon Hun World DLC. Day 1, 70% of main game. Hairstyle, stickers, emotes, and no gameplay.
Yep.
Okay.
I would suggest not buying it. I
Fair
don't know.
enough.
I don't know what else to tell people other than just don't buy it. And they're gonna exist, but like I don't. Maybe I'm gonna just. It's just a defeatist attitude. It's either play the game and don't buy it, or play games without it.
I think you have too. It's funny. I think you have too much faith in the world to be sensible. Whereas Yahtzee knows good and well they need education. You know?
Yeah, and I guess my problem is I have a million pieces of art I want to consume, whether it is a game, a movie, a TV show, an anime, like a book, whatever. And I'm just like, oh, if I'm not having a good time with this one, or if I have any reason not to engage with this one, then great, off the pile. I'll go to the next thing in the queue.
Sure.
Then you get a job as a game reviewer, and then you got to play all of them anyway.
But then I get to play the Princess Peach game, and let me tell you, what a delight.
Yes. We know who your new waifu is.
She's great. She has so many different costumes. There's one mermaid one, and let me tell you, some people are they're gonna take that in some directions.
All right, bat it down, Mr. Horny for Princess Peach. Bonnie gives 5 Canadian and says, I feel like the discussion really needs to be separated by single player versus competitive, or indie versus AAA, full priced versus $30, or free to play.
Yeah, I think it's like 12 different conversations that need to be had, and everyone's trying to have them at the same time. And so we get nowhere.
Because like gaming in itself doesn't mean a whole lot by itself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different niches.
Yep.
It's like saying, should we legislate that movies shouldn't have scenes where babies get beaten to death by Satan? There's like one movie where that happens.
Yeah. And if it's for the story, then go ahead. If it's furthering the narrative, I think it's great.
BS Marsh gives $5 and says, welcome back, Yahtzee. I hope filming Adventures Nigh and GDC were fun. Well, these things are never fun at the time, but in retrospect, yes, they are good times. Even if at the time everyone's complaining about how they have to keep walking to places in San Francisco and their back hurts and everything smells like poo.
So gamers or
just the gamers? Generally, the gamers.
Cisco or gamer smell?
Bit of both, I suppose.
Okay.
Evan Gottlieb gives $10 and says, did you see the Activision Blizzard advertorial in Adweek today? In my humble opinion, advertising is about to become the new in-game microtransactions in a way people do not realize is coming. Was that not always the way?
Yeah, it's been around. If you play live service games, it's pretty common. Has been for a while. To the egregious point where Call of Duty was advertising the game you were playing while you were playing it. And it's like, what's this? What happened? I think it was like some bug.
I remember a time in the 90s where every game felt like every game on the Amiga or whatever was sponsored by some snack company or other, and they were advertised like at every moment in the game. Like if you played James Pond 2, codename Robocod, it was sponsored by Penguin Biscuits, and like half the fucking backgrounds were just Penguin Biscuits.
It's really funny.
Yeah. What about like was it Yakuza? They advertise all their old games in there.
Oh yeah, and they advertised like a bunch of different Japanese alcohol brands.
That just feels realistic, though, right? If you're like running down what's supposed to be a real city, seeing familiar brands makes it feel like you're in that city.
So now we're into the product placement argument.
Yep.
Well, do you remember the first movie where you actually started noticing the product placement and realizing it was product placement?
Mike Myers, Wayne's World.
That was that
was a gag. Yeah,
that was the first time. You asked me the first time. I was a child.
I think seeing E.T. as a kid and being like, "Oh, it's weird that they're just having Reese's Pieces." Yeah.
For me, it was. I think it was like Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, where I suddenly found myself thinking, "Boy, they're holding surprisingly long on this Budweiser logo, aren't
they?" Yeah. Madam Web had a lot of big Pepsi, several different types of Pepsi sponsorships. People drinking Pepsi, Pepsi signs killing the villain. It was great. Spoilers for Madam Web.
With Pepsi?
Yeah.
What? Was
like a large to it or something? No, like a large Pepsi billboard. The final fight is on that, and like the S or the P falls down and kills.
Well, that's a bit blatant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
listen, it was Madam Web. We don't know what to do. Only she knows the future.
Fox D gives $5. It says in-game ads in games that simulate the real world aren't a bad thing. Increasing immersion and making a few bucks, nothing wrong with that. Well, it's fine if it's like a contemporary, like open world game and there's just like a fucking Victoria's Secret billboard or something.
Sure.
I guess.
Or
but
what do you think about Norman
not every
Reedus
game is that.
crushing Monster Energy drink in Death Stranding?
It took me out of the game every time, instantly. Yes, I was like, isn't he getting like a really horrible buzz from that? Like the point where he just feels really sick
and like passes out. Also, like the entire infrastructure of the world's collapsed, but like Monster's still there. Just
I mean, drinking one Monster Energy drink kind of makes me feel sick.
I see.
And he's just like downing them like it's water.
He strikes me more as a Red Bull guy, anyhow. This is now about character integrity.
Yeah, at least Red Bull comes in manageably sized cans.
Yeah.
I can just drink a little one and then get a little buzz without having
the Monster ones are just very big. Way too big.
Yeah, I don't want that much. Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, what about donations to keep the lights on for indie devs, like that one story Yachts told about a guy who made free text adventures but had to pay bills? You know, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that was just the guy's monetization model. He didn't sell the games. He just went online and said, hey, donate and I'll keep making these.
Yeah. Which, again, that's patronage. I think that's different than microtransactions.
I mean, if you're trying to make a living doing games, I think it's a dumb way to go about monetizing yourself.
Sure.
I mean, there's plenty of like established systems that are perfectly efficient, like Steam, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Chili Head Gaming gives €5 and says, we should stop saying microtransactions. There's nothing micro about a €25 skin. Well, that was my point, Chili Head Gaming. What's like not quite micro? Centi. It's a centi transaction.
Why isn't it just a transaction?
Well, you have to differentiate it from the original purchase, I suppose. So if it's like
one macro transaction.
Well, if it's that would be like bigger than the original transaction. If it was like a tenth of the original game's price, it would be a centi transaction.
Oh, we're going based on actual Latin. Yeah.
We should get more specific. If this is the world we're going to live in, we'd need like clearer definitions and words. So sure.
Actually, I think cent would be 100th.
And it is ruined.
If it was 100th of the original cost, it would be a centi transaction.
Deca transactions.
A Deca transaction. There you go.
What's a third?
What?
What would be a third?
Transaction.
A try transaction? That doesn't sound right at all.
No, it doesn't sound right at all.
I think Helldivers is like $30 and each is 10. So,
I mean, are those just like recurring battle passes though? Like buying like I don't know, Pokemon Go battle pass or something?
What? Just weird premium fast passes. That's all.
Oh,
gotcha. I was more so getting on the word than the actual. Do I care? Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Nirast25 gives 25 RONs and says, whenever I read / watch game reviews, including here, I don't see much mention of the OST. Why do you think is that? And who's your favourite composer?
Well,
I guess I don't really notice OSTs, at least in AAA games these days, because they're all just sort of generic orchestral these days.
What was it?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I just think there's a lot of people who cover games who don't know how to speak educatedly on music, myself included. I know the music I like. I knew the music I don't. When I try to describe music, I'm very bad at it.
For me, music's good if you don't really notice it. If it's just setting the mood, then it's doing its job.
Yeah.
I know we say that about certain things like sound design, but I feel like there is music I do notice that goes above and beyond. There'll be like the swell of a score or like a really well placed
I only really notice that if like they suddenly like start rocking out to like some licensed track. Like if Kickstart Your Heart shows up in the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack.
Sure.
It starts playing while you're shooting guys, and I'm like, I'm fucking into this now.
But there's like Persona, it's almost impossible for me to separate the music from the game.
I don't know, fine, that's true. Persona's really got really good music. But again, those are sort of like lyrical themes that really kick in. There's a real like bam, yeah, music starts. And that doesn't really
Yeah.
happen if you're just talking about like the background ambient music in something like an Uncharted or a Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't really have a favorite video game composer in the last 25.
Oh.
I guess I'd say the composers of the music from BPM Bullets per Minute, because they made money music for my game as well, and that's why I like them.
That's so good when you're in that shop. That
Yeah.
so good in there. Composers. I like one of the Thompson brothers. Makes Islet and Crypt Custodian because he's got a really strange approach for very very like I suppose it's called chill step nowadays, but he also keeps it it feels more ambient, like you would expect in a huge environment, and it feels almost like retro melancholy. As Marty said, we don't know how to describe music.
Yeah, like I really like Austin Wintory's music. Like he did Abzu, he did Journey. Whenever he pops up, I'm like, oh, this is great.
I say we do what Yahtzee said. We should get educated on music and approach.
Retro melancholy. That's just vaporwave, isn't it?
See, it feels that way. Yeah, it does. It does.
Anyway, Dale Mellows gives $5 and says, "I got a poop." Thanks for sharing, Dale Mellows. Fox D gives $5 and says, "I grew up on Super Mario Brothers and Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I feel bad for kids growing up on Skinnerbox microtransaction fests like Roblox and Fortnite." Well, maybe they feel bad for you for having to put.
Yeah, they look at those games and they're like, "You played this dusty piece of shit."
Yeah, those games look kind of shitty these days. The grass is always greener on the man's lawn.
It's got the internet. I think they're fine.
And then there's Balatro.
There's Balatro.
There's Balatro.
I give
Not a great game for people with very bad motion sickness, but a good game nonetheless.
Really? I've heard that.
You see how everything just sort of gently swims about in that game?
No, I haven't played it. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, very much. It's trance-like. I love it.
Interesting.
II gives 250 of some bizarre currency, possibly from the Czech Republic, going by the letters, and says, "Back to topic of paying for weapons to even engage with weapons. What about MMOs with subscription, i.e. games that require you to buy the game and then keep paying to access it? Isn't that just a string of microtransactions?"
Oh god.
Well, that's pretty old news, the old subscription model for MMOs. No one does that anymore, I don't think.
It's funny to think that's almost less scummy in a way.
Because you know what you're getting into.
Like,
It's like I'm going into this.
The whole free-to-play microtransaction model is designed so the player doesn't realize how much money they've spent.
Sure.
That's
and with
the thing.
Subscriptions, you know exactly how much you spent. You spent $10 a month or whatever it is.
That's the advantage. That's why they're not as clear and as informative as they could be, is because overall they make more money this way. Right? Imagine if, like, the amount of money that gyms would make if they did live transaction stuff. I actually hear that other places are going to try and do live services.
I'm sure a lot of different businesses and industries are looking at. You're like, oh, this company EA made how much revenue based on microtransactions? God, I just said microtransactions, not ironic.
Well, we've established it's an annoying thing to have to pronounce each time. That's why everyone keeps shortening it to MTX in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
We should just call them mics from now on.
Mics.
Right. John Russell gives $4.99 US, says Team Fortress 2 with those damn hats and their loot crates share a lot of the blame for why the industry is nickel and diming its player base. Yeah, they were certainly there from the beginning, weren't they?
Valve, how could you?
You love Team Fortress. How do you feel about their hat monetization?
Well, as I've said, yes, I used to love playing Team Fortress, and I stopped playing at around the time they started introducing microtransactions and character updates, and never really went back.
There you go. He's consistent. I like him.
There you go. Jason Lotito gives $4.99 US and says, Valve over here supporting MTX and Lee its head low. Maybe that was a mistype, or Siri didn't hear you properly, Jason Lotito, but I'm not sure what you're on about there.
Maybe saying that Valve just allows them on the, like, Valve doesn't step in. I guess it's not Valve's duty to step in and say you have too many microtransactions in your games on Steam.
Well, if they're not going to stop you putting out anime porn games, like nobody's business, they're probably not going to come out and stop that either.
There you go.
Fill My Ass Up gives 100 Norwegian kroner, I think, and says, I avoid games with microtransactions as a principle because I know the game's been designed around them and making me feel cheated, and I am one of those who got lured into spending 9k in COC.
$9,000? Or
This is where I say more of that human element, and I don't want to get into too much psych or nothing, but I feel a lot of this conversation comes through trauma, be it their own or others. I can very much empathize with why you would hate microtransactions, but if we step away from it a little bit, I go, why'd you spend so much?
Yeah.
So it's not victim blaming. It's just this empathy and also trying to juggle anecdotal stuff versus just an over-encompassing approach.
Well, people with gambling addictions generally, there's an understanding that it's 50-50, really. Like, they have a problem, but the casinos are designed to sucker them in anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, the problem, what we need is more education. People should be educated out of their gambling addictions.
Good
Bing
luck.
bong, so simple. We'll just tell them all. We'll just say to them all, stop gambling, and they'll go, "Oh wow, I've never been educated in that way before,"
Yeah.
and then they will stop gambling.
Yeah.
Just remembering there was an old sketch on Mitchell and Webb's radio show where one of them was was talking about how he needs help, and the other guy says, well, have you tried not taking heroin? It really seems to be the root of all your problems there.
Yeah. Seems like a great place to start.
Kuato gives $5 and says, it seems MTX follow inflation alongside game budgets where game prices don't, with the exception of the $10 hike this generation.
Yeah, so
If
like
you
that
say
money's
so.
being passed on to the consumer or
They've
to
been
the
like-
consumers who want to engage with it.
I guess. They've been like $5 since the beginning, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Banin gives two. Sorry,
My
what?
bad. Nah.
Okay, well, moving on. Banin gives $2 and goes, secret teaser, H-Bomber guy next guest, please.
There you go.
Well, that's up to him, I guess, but I think he tends to keep himself to himself when he's not putting out his annual video.
Hey, you saw Santa.
It was hard enough pinning him down for 3 minutes to talk to him at GDC.
How do you know that's not a body double?
Could have been.
He knew lots of private details from when the two of us were both posters on the Something Awful forums. So if it was a body
Educated.
double, he knew his...
He did his homework.
Yeah, he did his homework. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, at least fan games have no micropayments, I think.
You're not allowed to, I think. You get sued.
No.
I mean, at that point,
You
that's why
can't-
Nintendo comes to people when it's like, oh, you started a Patreon for this thing? Yeah, we're coming for
No.
you.
You can't charge money for your Mario fan games
Yeah.
because that's not yours.
Yeah.
Snake in the Garden gives €2 and says, because Marty's jester hat made me spit out my drink.
Chester
Thank
hat.
you, Snake in the Garden.
That's
Oh,
what
There
it
it
is.
is
Jester hat.
again.
That is.
It keeps coming
Oh.
back.
Oh, I wasn't even looking
Yes.
down there. Look at us. We got hats.
Robo the Snob gives €20 and says, we should weaponize the think of the children argument. Nobody really cares about them, but politicians use them for brownie points. So let's have MTXs pushed back under the pretense of doing it for the kids, i.e. Belgium.
They do.
in the US, we
Belgium's
don't do
very
anything.
aggressive about that.
Yeah.
They're. If anything, I admire their consistency. Even if it is like way overstepping, they at least are like, we're doing it. You said think of the
Yeah.
children, and now
Fair
I
enough.
am. So
And just for the future, so you don't embarrass yourself again, Robo the Snob, it's EG for example, i.e. just means that is to say. So what you're saying there is that the kids are Belgium. That was an improper use of IE, I'm afraid.
how do you like your EG over easy?
Yes,
Is
he
this
should
a
have.
Was you mansplaining grammar on microtransaction?
Microtransaction.
No, it's like an IE versus EG.
Yes, I'm mansplaining Latin acronyms.
What does it stand for?
All those dudes are dead. We could change those words.
IE is short for id est, which literally means that is to say.
See, I'm
I
learning.
can't remember what EG stands for, but it means for example.
Enthusiast gaming.
There you go.
Example, because that's how it should be spelled.
An example.
No, just example. There's a fucking G in it.
NMWCH gives $20 and says, do you think the backlash against Dragon's Dogma 2 has something in common with the general gamer backlash against gaming journalists and media figures and latched on in droves as a gotcha?
A little bit, honestly. I think that's why we're seeing it happen right now.
Yeah, like
Do you think?
yeah, like in Helldivers, I mentioned it had anti-kernel software. I usually I kind of like stick my head into whatever it is that I'm playing, and then if I hear a lot of hubbub of like, oh, it's got this anti-cheat inside of it, I don't say this is good or bad. I go, oh, this is it. I go find it, and yes, it's there if you want to know. That's it. But by pointing that out, people saw that as me saying, oh, damn, this thing is horrible and you shouldn't like it. So people are now like whiplashing the other way of if you're not saying there's microtransactions, it's because you're okay with this and you're a shill. So it's too presumptuous all around.
Yeah. It's that usual hive mind internet argument mentality. If you're slightly in favor of this, then you must be in favor of all of it.
And you must hate everything that might be diametrically opposed to it.
Yeah. I also think it's because if you're having a good time with the game, you're probably not angry on Twitter. So it's the angry voice will always be louder because the content one is not saying anything.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a healthy human being,
go.
you're not angry on Twitter.
Squeaky wheels get degrees, vocal majorities, etc.
Yeah.
Ernesto gives $10 and says, I was looking into DD2, but just seeing all the microtransactions on the store made me recoil. Grabbed Death Stranding. Better weird and crazy as Kojima than insane as Capcom's greedy leaders.
Ernesto, I opened up Dragon's Dogma 2, and at no point have I ever even seen a microtransaction. So it feels...
Yeah.
I noticed the online store link on the main menu because I was looking through everything in the main menu looking for the fucking change save slot button.
That's something I could get behind. That is something I could get behind. Listen,
I had to go to the PC Gaming Wiki to figure out how to delete the existing save.
100 save files are bust.
If your game makes people go to the PC Gaming Wiki, you've fucked up.
Yeah. Like playing these games doesn't make you a bad person, just as giving them doesn't.
Just a poorly educated one who should be educated more.
It's all about education. Isn't that your chip? Because you left school. So
I left one of the country's highest ranking grammar schools, Al. Thank you.
I'm learning more now. This explains a lot.
Yes, like my old school, my old high school, has frequently come out top in the entire country for exam results.
I don't think you're allowed to be essentially the birthplace of Shakespeare and not have that reputation. I don't think you're allowed to.
Well, that's fair enough.
I mean, Shakespeare was a good writer. We don't know if he was smart.
Well, he's talking grammar.
Well, he was writing for the common populace of the time, so yeah, he was like the soap opera writer of his day. But yes, I went to a very good school. That's why I don't have no university education, because my high school was just that good.
And that's never haunted me to this day.
Anyway, Fungus Finder gives $2 and says, congratulations, etc. Referencing the Evangelion ending, of course. Is it Evangelion or Evangelion, incidentally?
I use Gellion. Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Are you sure? Because I did a video once. I did a video once where I was talking about it, and later in the video, I used the word evangelical, and then someone pointed out, "Hey, you pronounce those two things differently."
Pronounce it evangelical.
So should it be Evangelion and evangelical, just to be consistent?
Yeah, I still think words are jazz, and we can do whatever we want with them because we're all going to die soon. So it doesn't matter.
I'll have scripts where I'll say data and data, and not
GIF
know
and GIF in the same script.
in the same scoop.
With people. Yeah. Humane Shield gives $1.99 and says Trapped Keeper Fortnite skin. I don't know why, but all those 4 words together made me think of penis mutilation.
Fortnite skin is the thing that gets me. I assume you meant Trapper Keeper, as in like that was a thing back in the day.
That one there,
at least in the '90s, where like that would be a Trapper Keeper would be like a sign of, oh look, you got the brand one, you got a Green Bay Packer one, or you got a Michael Jordan one. Whereas this poor over here just has a red one.
Stop! Explain what a Trapper Keeper is.
Oh, it was like a fancy folder at school. Sorry, a Trapper Keeper was like a folder that contained several folders inside of it, and so you would bring your Trapper Keeper from class to class, and you could put all your papers in it. But they would have like themed outside, so you get a Spider-Man Trapper Keeper, or a Michael Jordan Trapper Keeper, or whatever the big movie The Summer Trapper Keeper was.
Man, they just gave us folders.
Yeah, this was like a fancy 3-ring binder. I distinctly remember someone making fun of someone else in class because of their Trapper Keeper, and the other person saying, "Shut up, your parents are divorced," and being like, "That's the sickest response." That's what happens if you get bullied for your Fortnite skins. Just find something personal about the other person and get back at them.
Man, the things we used to give a shit about.
Yeah.
Before everyone had a phone.
Yeah.
Camja Ninja gives $10 and says, to play devil's advocate, we don't ask buyers to research if their kids' pizza was made with the blood of toxic koalas. We have government regulations for that. Should we have similar consumer protections for games?
There's plenty of devils out there.
It wouldn't hurt. I keep saying it. This should be like legislated on a government level.
That's not the worst thing.
Because you can't trust the publishers, because the publishers are just going to do whatever makes them the most money.
I also don't trust the government. Don't trust the government.
You trust them enough to do your taxes, drive on the roads.
Yeah,
obviously, you assume I do my taxes. There's no
drive roads.
I mean, obviously, you don't trust specifically the government themselves because it's full of greedy bastards. But philosophically speaking, the government is the only thing that can really meaningfully legislate this.
Sure.
There you go. Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, fine, Yachts, lives are dumb, but how else do you add challenge without adding soulsy difficulty to piss off casuals and somehow keep the hardcore peeps happy?
That's their whole job. A game designer's job is to figure out how to answer that very question, and they all just went, you know what, quarters will do.
Most people, they've realized that it's hard to feel like you've been punished if you just reload a save from like 2 seconds ago. But they've tried having games where you just didn't die, like the original Prey, and people didn't like it. It didn't feel like there was any actual danger. So you've got to have like the semblance of death, even if it's, practically speaking, just going to take 2 seconds of time out.
You can also build difficulty into your actual game proper, like a Celeste, to where like you can make it to the end of Celeste without fully engaging with all of its mechanics, but if you want to get everything, you need to prove that you are very good at this game.
JPando27 gives $5 and says, I feel like there's a distinction to be made between loot boxes, which prey upon the gambler's paradox, and other microtransactions. Yes, I feel like in the industry there's a distinction between the loot box mechanic, which is considered a form of gambling in some countries, I believe. And the
knowing what you're going to get and not knowing what you're going to get.
Yes. And just paying $5 for a Persona 5 skin or whatever.
He's never going to let that go.
It was in Persona 5, but it was skins of Persona 4 and Persona 3 and even some of the original Devil Saga games. You love a good Shin Megami
Marty's
Tensei.
a heavy tipper.
You're not bringing me round on this, Marty.
Heavy tipper.
Fox D gives $2. It says Pepsi Man for PS1, best advert game ever. Yeah,
Doritos Crash Course, best ad game.
Avoid the Noid.
Guess what? Depends how you define an advert game. Like if it was like a video game spin-off for a movie or a TV show, is that an advert game?
Some
like
people
Spider-Man 2,
yeah.
Spider-Man 2 on the GameCube was a really good game.
Yeah, if it's aligned with like the release of a movie, you're like, oh, get everyone excited for this. The Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, and Return of the King, released with the movies to get people excited.
I guess there's no reason you couldn't be an advert game and a good game.
Sure.
Star Wars Battlefront 2.
There you go.
Which one?
Oh.
Tune into Cold
Saber Lily gives $4.99 and says, I remember Rainbow Six Vegas 2 had dynamic billboards that would update whatever movie or product was on them every patch.
Yeah, so do I. That was neat.
I mean, yeah. It feels like something you could probably abuse.
Sure. Goes to the highest bidder.
Do you think, like, maybe something like 4chan would ever do that? Like, pool their money together to pay for an ad in Rainbow Six Vegas 2 to say, don't play this game, it's shit?
I think
and if they did that, would they have to put it in the game?
Oh.
Yeah. I would imagine there's just some type of
surely they'd
filtering.
void it, when they were trying to name this boat and it was something very crass, or get Pitbull.
Boat face,
yeah, well, that was like the fourth one and the only one that was PG enough for it. Same thing with Mountain Dew. It would be like Grandma Blasting is what they were trying to get it to be.
Oh,
It was
God.
the most popular one.
Yes.
Or Pitbull. Let's get him to any Walmart in America, and they dumped it so he'd end up in Alaska. So,
Yes, a lot of brands learned the hard way not to do these sorts of online competitions.
yeah. Well. Oh well.
Humane Shield gives $4.99. Excuse me. And says, what shoot game had Pepsi machines all over the map that could not be destroyed? I heard somewhere that the game industry moved in 5-year business plans.
Hmm.
Did you,
I don't remember
I
a game
think,
with machines.
I think I remember what he's talking about. There was
Is
a
that
case that no, that's Pepsi Man.
Oh.
There was a
Very different.
case where the things that had like the product placement brands on couldn't be destroyed, where everything else was could. I forget what.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't destroy the Monster Energy drink in Death Stranding.
No, you can crush it though. Wait, people are saying the Biocommando remake? I love the idea that the guy's like, my dead wife became my arm, but I need a Pepsi. That is
There's
really
only
funny.
there's only one thing that can distract me from my incredible grief. And that's the delicious taste of Pepsi.
Oh, that's funny.
Jackson Jewell, member for 4 months in the Green Gang, says it's Monday again already. I know.
Holy
And I've already done my 2 business trips for the year.
There you go.
Dower Dodger Esquire, member for 4 months in the Green Gang, says wellness check. Hope you're all in good spirits.
You know what?
I
Thanks.
certainly am. I'm
Dodger.
pickled in brandy, which is a very good spirit.
Batooch.
RD gives $5 and says, with the purchase to remove ads in mind, if we're to live in this hell, should in-app purchases on storefronts be clarified on what's there to buy? Well, if consumers don't really notice the contains in-app purchases warning label as it currently stands, I doubt they're going to notice any larger labels. I mean, have you seen like an Australian cigarette packet?
It's ugly, yeah.
Like legally speaking, they can only be plain grey with like a plain white logo and then a huge picture of someone's diseased lungs over the top of it and a big slogan on the top saying, don't buy this, it'll kill you. And people still smoke in Australia. You can't stop it when people want that sort of thing.
Yeah, like Frost, in your perfect world, if like, would I have to scroll through like a EULA of all the microtransactions in a game? Because I don't want to do that.
Here's the thing: if it's free to play, I see it like a McDonald's, right? Where you can walk into the McDonald's, see what they have to sell, and then just walk out, right? But if it's like, hey, pay to get in first, right? It's like, okay, there's also a list of all these other things. I think that just goes along with like in old school magazines. It would just have the game's features, like what's in here. Like, it's got 2-player co-op. Like, on a Steam page, I look like, is it multiplayer? Is it just single player? What's going on here? So information. Information
is always good. Knowledge is power.
Jackson Jewell gives $5 and says the only microtransactions should be the ones that don't give any actual advantage gameplay wise, unless it unlocks stuff you can unlock anyway.
Single player.
Coffee's bought the microtransaction for this toy, I think.
What is that, a horse?
No, it's like a little lion.
Oh, that is definitely
on the tail.
I saw it upside down the whole time, so I was very confused. Toffee's just going nuts. Just going ape shit.
Get it. Chris MC gives $1.99 and says nothing.
Thank you,
it's their
Chris.
first super, so be nice to them.
I'm going to like it. There you go.
Owlpoot999 gives 35 Zaras and says, I started watching the stream a bit late, so I'm a bit behind, but microtransactions should be called anal penetrative transactions.
Rolls off the tongue.
Well, I don't think they're going to call them that. That would be very off-putting, Owlpoot999.
And then no one would buy them. Boom.
Yeah, I don't think you thought this through, Owlpoot999.
No, some people.
Alex Armstrong, who really wants to be heard this week, apparently, gives $5 and says, have you tried not gambling? It's not that easy, Yards. There are these things called temptations and habits. That's why we spend so much dollars on therapy.
Yahtzee was being facetious.
Yes, I mean, that's basically a decent default assumption to make.
But I'm not when I say find better addictions. That's what I did. That's why I stopped. That's why I got off microtransactions. I was like, oh, there's other things that could really get you Feeling
That's
better than
people
this.
rank top 10 addictions.
That's how people manage them, isn't it? Why don't you take up knitting?
That's not an
Replace-
addiction. What?
Yeah, you don't get the same high.
You can get addicted to knitting, and then you get a lovely scarf to wear. That's the high.
Oh,
Alex, don't stop spending money. We need
I would
you,
watch
Alex.
that documentary.
Don't listen to Yahtzee. He doesn't know. He doesn't watch movies. He doesn't know anything.
I would watch that documentary. I can't stop knitting.
Dr.
Stop
Theo,
knitting!
Dr. Theo, member for 2 months in tip jar. Thank you very much. Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, weird game idea. Stardew Valley times Lethal Company. Post-apocalypse setting. The day is typical farming sim stuff. At night is horror resource gathering. Now, I'm all but certain I've played games along those lines.
That's
Dr.
Minecraft.
Theo. There you go.
Did
Was
you
that
say
the original
times?
Fortnite plan?
Like multiplied Stardew Valley by Lethal Company? Oh.
You got to multiply them. That's gonna be some long,
I like
some
that.
long
I'm
math
also times
unders-
now too.
under-
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 5 indie games I've played along those lines.
Moonlighter.
RoboNob the Snob gives $2.49 and says, the worst part is I studied Latin. Ha!
Oh,
I.e., the
what-
worst part is
Yeah.
studying Latin.
Well, that's not a proper use of IE either. What's
I didn't
wrong
study
with you?
Latin, and I think words are dumb. So,
I took 99 things of Rosetta for Latin. Learned
but a
nothing.
bitch ain't one.
Yep.
Okay, I just looked it up. EG stands for exempli gratia, which means for example.
Huh. So there is a G in it.
Yeah, I'm just going to try to commit that to memory from now on so I can seem clever.
You know how else you can seem clever? Watch Oppenheimer.
I don't wanna.
Watch Dune.
I watched 5 minutes of it over someone's shoulder while I was on the plane.
As
And
Christopher Nolan meant to be seen.
This is cinema.
and all I saw was Cillian Murphy having some very awkward sex.
Oh, it was
Wouldn't
great.
look
Which
over
one
at
was it?
that
In the
moment.
bedroom reading the Bhagavad Gita, or was it in the government interrogation? Either
I
way, they were
don't
both-
know. It was
Oppie.
just a
Oppie.
sexy bit out of nowhere.
Hoppy, Hoppy.
Adam Haas. I think that's the next one. Yes. Adam Haas gives $5 and says, gaming has evolved just as movies have. And our movie now is not like the 80s. You must understand how things have changed to continue participating. Well,
I'd
quite.
say-
That's why I don't watch movies. I'm down with the kids, you see. All the kids aren't going to the movies anymore. They're all watching TikToks and YouTube video
That's
essays.
not true. They all went to Barbie. They showed up in
Yeah.
droves.
Yeah, 'cause it was a meme.
TikToks.
They only went because it was a meme to go and see Barbie.
You generally think that many people went as a joke.
People don't
I
have that kind of a
said-
sense of humor.
Nobody went to Morbius, and that was a joke.
That's the
Well,
best joke.
I guess it's fair to say that people go to comedy movies as a joke
Oh, well, that's
because
fair.
they
You got me
want
there.
to enjoy the
Go
humor.
for the joke, not as a
That-
joke.
that-
Right?
That's funny though, the way you phrase
Now,
it.
there's a semantic argument for you.
Oh
You go
no,
to
I'm
com-
anti-Semitic. No,
Wait
Do
a
we
minute.
always go to comedy movies as a joke?
no, for the joke.
Hopefully, I'm not the joke, or this. I'm not watching this ironically. No,
For
I'm
the
ironically
joke.
paying money for
I want
a
the
shit movie.
goofs.
I think rated R got
Anyway.
softer, but that's elsewhere.
Snake in the Garden gives €2 and says, "Are amiibo physical microtransactions?" Sorry, Marty.
I have so many amiibo, and
You
they
have
just keep
amiibos?
coming.
I thought they were Funko Pops.
No, they're just little toys. They can be used on games. Like I can rub an amiibo on my Switch, and like Link will get some watermelon or something. But I don't do that. I just like putting
Okay,
them up
that's-
here, and I like looking at them because it makes me a little less sad for a small amount of time.
Well, they're not that much fun as toys, are they? Because they don't articulate. You can't.
No, I just like looking at them. I like knowing that Chibi Robo from Chibi Robo and Sora from Kingdom Hearts are near each other at night.
But are you the target audience?
No, I'm
What
a
if the
fucking
kid-
idiot. I'm an
if the
idiot. That's
kiddies-
why I bought them.
The kiddies want to play with their toys.
No, kids aren't buying amiibo. I don't think. I think it's for
Kids
like
don't have
midlife
money.
crises. Midlife
Fine.
crisis.
Okay. I mean, they were buying it when it was what's that other toy game? Sky something?
Skylanders.
Skylanders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amiibo's not a game though. Where Skylanders, I think, were for the kids. Lego
Right.
Dimension for the kids. Disney Infinity for the kids. This is just for
Et cetera.
weirdos.
Did Disney Infinity do all right?
No,
hear
I think they
them
put a
now.
lot of money into it, and the games were pretty good, but the budget was
yeah.
way too high.
I remember hearing it didn't really do too well. I don't
I
think
believe
the
those were
kids
the
really like.
developers.
The kids aren't really into classic Disney the way the grown-ups are these days.
No, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, they looked at the developer and were like, "Oh, you're good at handling IP," and I think that was the studio who made Hogwarts Legacy, which sold a bajillion fucking copies last year. So,
Imagine. Huh.
Well, anything with Harry Potter in is going to sell a bajillion copies.
agreed. Except those
The-
recent movies that were very bad.
Quite. The Brain Sturgeon gives €2 and says, "Nothing to ask, just sending you some euros." Thank
Aw,
you, the Brain
thanks,
Sturgeon.
Brain
Thank
Sturgeon.
Oh God, there's still more.
Don't you
Humane
mean?
Shield-
Oh my God, how grateful we are that there are still
Oh yes. I mean, oh lovely. There's still more.
Yeah.
Humane Shield gives $4.99 and says, "Yahtzee, have you seen Dune Part 2? Now think about this, Humane Shield. Think about the ongoing theme that has been cropping up occasionally in this podcast. Do you think I've seen Dune Part 2?
Upkeep.
Anyway,
Did you ever read Dune? You seems like someone who would read Dune.
to continue the super chat, he also says, "If yes, did you enjoy the Life of Brian reference?" Now that is a film I've seen.
It's a good movie.
Have I read Dune?
Correct.
I started reading it once. I don't think I finished it.
Same.
It's a bit of a slog.
Feel like there's none of like scoundrels for him or water. It's a very, very dry.
Yeah, it's a very dry. It's a very dry.
Yes, I only like reading books about water. I'm still
Love
on
big worms though, don't you? You're like a big worm guy.
The
The Shai
yes.
Halud, they call it. Big worm.
Oh yes, I really love big worms. I don't know. Where did that come from? What makes you
'Cause
think I
movies
would be
got
a
big
big worm
worms.
guy?
Do you not like big worms? I love big worms.
I'm not the biggest fan.
Oh man, big worms are great.
No tremors, none of that. No.
Yeah, Tremors. The Sarlacc is like an inverted worm.
I have never seen Tremors. I have seen Return of the Jedi, but I have a lot of questions about that whole Sarlacc business.
Yeah, so do I. Digested over
Like-
the course of 1,000 years. I'm like, well, you're just gonna die in a few days.
Yeah, and also, I'm pretty sure thin air digests you faster than that.
Yeah. Sarlacc's
yeah.
very bad at digesting.
Yeah, you wouldn't feel a thing. That's
If
like
nothing-
0.001% of your
Yeah.
body per day.
Life is digesting us faster
Yes,
than that.
Faster than that.
I could trim my fingernails and I'd be digesting myself faster than the fucking Sarlacc would.
The Sarlacc needs fiber. That's what I'm getting. Fiber in the diet.
Anyway, Patent Pike gives $2 and says, "Game with microtransactions should all be 18 plus only."
There's a thought.
Okay, go legislate that now. Go
Technically-
write to your congressman.
Technically, aren't they? If they were to have like big purchases in them, because my
Well, yeah.
question in one of them was, where are kids getting all this money from? Do your kids have a job, Yachts? Not.
Unless their job is mess up my nice clean living room, then no.
So like, yeah, so it goes back with Marty of like, why are the parents giving the kids money?
Because they're responsible parents and need more education. Bish bash bosh.
Oh, that's
Educate
good.
them more.
Hmm.
MTN Nerd gives $5 and says, "What about getting rid of in-game currency? MTX should connect directly to the store and require a credit card each time."
Would that take away the magic, Marty?
Well,
The magic of the individual purchases.
Because as Yacht said, in Australia they have these grey packs and
Yeah.
and lung cancer all over them. Does that take away from the magic? Does it offend? Even
Yeah. I wonder how much it works too. I guess there's no way to know, right?
people still
like-
smoke in Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris MC gives £199 and says, "The MTX killer Baldur's Gate 3 was good. Thoughts on originals?" I never
MTX
played
killer.
them, to be honest.
The problem is it's not to me it's not the MTX killer Baldur's Gate 3. It is an exception to the rule.
And
Yeah.
and you know, corporate looked at that and went, "Imagine if they had microtransactions." The fool.
yeah, those
But not having-
imbeciles at
Yeah.
Larian. Yeah.
Oddcam gives $2 and says, "Marty is anti-what?" Thanks for the
That's
Abzu stream, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
He's anti-semantics.
How wonderful is Abzu? You ever played Abzu?
I think
Yeah,
I
it's a-
did. That's the underwater one, right?
Yeah. Some of the Journey team split off and did that, and it's kind of
Yeah.
underwater Journey. Yeah, delightful.
Oh, I confused that one with Gris.
Hey,
Very
Gris?
bluey.
You talking about Gris?
No,
Gris.
there was
yeah.
it was the other 4-letter title.
Oh, yeah, Mugris.
With a blue cover and
Yes.
well,
Our Owl Poot 999 gives 35 Zara and says, "Well, let's be fair, yeah, some people are into that."
I have no idea what we were talking about at the time.
It was whatever I was browbeating Owl Poot 999 about, I assume, and I've forgotten what that was as well.
Probably worms.
Okay,
There's some people into worms.
are they talking about being digested for 1,000 years?
Oh, that might be.
oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, you know, I don't see how you'd be into it because, as I say, you wouldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And you'd die of old age long before you'd had any noticeable part of your body removed.
You just returned to the womb.
And yeah, I just know there's some fucking Star Wars fans who like got all their fucking expanded universe books open, explaining how no, actually, it is an agonizing process because the Sarlacc, for some
keeps you alive the whole
reason,
time by giving you nutrients, but you feel pain the whole time and you don't die.
Yes, and this is for some reason evolutionary advantageous to the Sarlacc. God knows how.
This is like the Matrix, but you don't get to pretend that you're middle management. Huh. Weird.
Anyway, Dipshit the Clown gives $4.99 and says, "Long time listener, first time caller. Thanks for the great podcast, boys."
Thanks, Dipshit.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dipshit.
Fun name to say.
Why can't you all be named something like that?
Something that's fun.
I wouldn't complain so much about having to acknowledge you all.
It's already in your head. Just get rid of the middleman, he says.
and then Eric paid us another 9 arses so he could show us some poo.
He brought some poo out of his arse.
Yeah. Thanks for the poo from your ass, Eric.
Love it.
We did it.
That's it. We got through it all finally. Now Toffee can finally stop staring balefully from the couch cushion over there because I can finally take him for his walk. Thanks for watching, stroke listening to the Windbreakers podcast. I hope we all learned something about microtransactions today. What have we got coming up this week? Well, there's no Fully Ramblematic this week because I was away last week at GDC still, but we are going to have a little something video along similar lines that hopefully is not quite as much work for me. And of course, Yahtzee Tries will be back on Wednesday afternoon. And the edited video will be back on Sunday because Jesse's freed up from doing the other shit we had him on.
I don't think this Sunday. I think the idea is this is the first of 2 weeks, and then.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I believe that's.
Yeah. So we'll be starting those again 2 Sundays from now, but it will feature this week's stream amongst others. And I've got a semi-ramblematic coming on Thursday, assuming Matt hasn't died from jet lag.
No, I've been slacking with him. That boy's living.
Well, how do you know it was him? I don't know. It wasn't his ghost.
I don't.
That's the trouble with everyone living in different countries, I suppose.
I asked him to describe a packet of cigarettes in Australia. That's what I asked him.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah. And then you'll also have some GDC diary stuff probably next week.
Yes.
Correct. Great.
On top of Wednesday's video, which will be GDC related. What else is there
Frost,
to plug that's not got me in it?
Frost, you did things. You made vid.
I did a thing. Yeah, third time's not the charm for Star Wars, unfortunately. I know some of you are probably excited for that for the past 20 years. Alas, put those away for the next 20. It's going to be a while. And then, as far as videos go, you got that one. You got the old Helldivers I want to have a look at. And then working on another one. Probably going to talk about that Kotaku thing with the 50 articles a week. Interesting. Why do so many... Do you ever wonder why so many games media outlets have these strange standards? How did we get there? Yeah. So,
it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, that's it for me.
It's a mystery to me. And then tune back in later today, 6 p.m. The Hidden Gem Hot Monday Energy crew will be back playing Void Stranger, one of my favorite little under the radar games from last year. So they'll be having a good time with that. And then we should have all the normal streams this week. We should be back to we'll do Yahtzee Tries, Firelink, and Devil May Cry, and Nick things, and all those goodies.
Yes, we're finally all back from our trips and back to normal.
We are. And you know what? Since we're not going to see you until next week, I hope everyone has a nice Easter.
Oh, yeah.
That's this weekend. The bunny. Do you guys do Easter bunny stuff with the kids?
Eggs.
I used to love that bunny.
Oh, yeah. My wife loves doing the Easter stuff.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna have an egg hunt. We're gonna do all. We're gonna have the whole shebang. Gonna invite
yeah.
the family over for dinner.
Perfect.
Everything.
Heck yeah.
And one last super chat from Robonob the Snob. He gave €249 to say, "Have a good walk." I'm sure Toffee will. And then 4 people gave it a little thumbs up. How long has it been the case that people can put thumbs up on super
week.
chats? Incidentally,
A week.
Yeah, a few days.
I'm giving it a thumbs
yeah,
up too.
Yeah, I figured that was new.
Yeah.
All right then.
Toffee's coming in frame.
Yeah, so something's creeping up behind me, but I'm not sure what it is. Yes,
oh,
all
that was a
right.
good shake. A good audible shake.
Yes, all right, Toph. We'll go in a minute. See you next time, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for being
Well.
great.